Good morning. I get to do this on a normal time because I'm in Florida.
Oh, not fair.
I know. I started this when I was in Florida. Oh,
So you
we
didn't
got,
think of us mere mortals. I'm
hey,
up
there my
usually.
guest. Whoops.
I said I'm usually up. I just not usually dressed at that time of day.
I say if I can do it, anybody can do it. But look at we got our speakers on. They're joining
Okay.
in. Chris and
Oh,
Chris. I am in the company of royalty here
Good
today.
morning.
Good morning.
It's a
So
wake up Wednesday kind of a
it
morning. I
it
love
is
it.
do you love it? Thank you. It
I
is a
do.
wake up Wednesday kind of a morning. Got some good
I'm
people.
glad to see that my partner's wearing University of Tennessee colors today.
Oh. I'll take it.
Let me just
Okay.
get our wonderful Ashley Galladay. I'm going to make her co-host. And if you guys don't know Ashley, I'm talking about my two Chris's. You need to get to know her. She is extremely influential and knows the who's who of real estate here. So got some good people going on. Good, good, good. And I hope that if we've got new people that you'll continue to come back because we do this every Wednesday. And it's been almost 2 years that I've been doing this continuously with the help of Ashley. And it is just grown into private mastermind groups and retreats at Jean and Susan's Lake House. And we're already planning next year. And when we go to Cabo or Hawaii or any of the events that we go to, we get to meet with Jean on a private level. So it's a good group to be a part of. And we welcome everyone. So, hey, Ash, good morning.
Good morning.
Let's see who we got going on here. We're growing by the minute. Growing by the minute. So Chris and Chris, two great Chris's coming together for powerhouses. How does that work?
You know, it's funny. We actually met at Brent Go's Scottsdale Mastermind in 21.
Oh,
Actually on
I
the
was
on the
there.
golf course. You were there.
I was there.
Yeah.
I
And
was there. No, Peggy, I don't think you were there. I was there.
In
You weren't
in
there at the 21 one.
in Scottsdale?
Yeah, it was
Did I
Desert
come-
Mountain. It was JW Marriott Desert Mountain.
Yeah.
Ash, did you go somewhere without me?
Yeah. I don't remember what you were doing, but you weren't there. That was my first event when I was on staff that I spoke at.
No, I wasn't. Yeah, well, I was there.
You
I
weren't
have
there.
pictures of that.
Yeah.
You want to know, this is the crazy thing. Curtis Johnson had 800 people in his organization 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember he was one of the first speakers. I'm like, wow, 800 agents. And he'd only been in there, a few years or whatever. It's like
So
and then every person after that coming along and just the great businesses that people had built. It was really inspiring. That was our first event that we'd ever gone to. My wife is an EXP realtor, by the way. So,
oh, okay, that's
well,
great.
she's actually an executive at AT&T and oversees $50 million a month in sales. And she dabbles in real estate. When we lived in Scottsdale, her biggest business was selling my friends from Seattle their second homes.
Wow.
But
What?
she used to own her own boutique real estate agency in Scottsdale, and then got into telecom, and then we all hit it off. Chris and I, we actually had a third partner on the golf course that day. It was another Chris, and I can't remember his last name, but it was Chris, and Chris. So every time we got up to hit a new hole, it was always like, who's up first? Chris. Chris is up
Really?
first. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
That was it.
Okay. Ashley, I'm going to send you a picture of us in Scottsdale together. In 2021, we were with Annie. But
I think it's the
anyway,
only one that he did in Scottsdale over the last few years, isn't it?
actually, there was another one the year I was joining because I was at KW. And I told my team leader that I was taking 3 days off. I was flying to go talk to Jean about EXP. And he was paying me to take the time off, and he was paying for my air ticket on my expense account. So That that was my exit out of a team leader role. It's just got to be open. But anyways, I want to really jump into this because we've got some really powerful stuff. And Chris Stagg and I had a conversation, a few weeks ago. And, I get a lot of people calling me all the time. Let's face it, when you're connected to Jean Frederick, some people think, okay, that's a way to get into Jean's group. And I try to protect this group on who can come on. And when I listened to you and listened to what you were talking about, and when you started telling me that we were going to have another guest, Chris Widener, correct? Am I saying it right? Yep. And you telling me that he's, Hall of Fame. I'll let you talk about that. But what impressed me the most with you, Chris, was that you had a thing about doing open houses. You're an EXP agent. You're out there. You know what it's going about. And you got me at word of mouth because I'm a connector. And word of mouth, I don't care if people say to me all the time, oh, I'm just getting into real estate. I don't have any money. I don't have this. I don't have that. You have a mouth. You have a great voice. You got a iPhone or cell phone, Android, whatever the heck you're using, flip phone with a bunch of contacts. And if you just can't pick up the phone and say hello, well, then no, you shouldn't be in real estate. So anyways, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to let you do the interruptions. Brag about yourself for a minute, Chris, and that fabulous. I say that's a Hook 'em Horns color t-shirt.
There you go. I love it. Right.
Right.
What a privilege. I mean, this is just this is a great opportunity. So I started with EXP 7 years ago, and I met Gene Frederick. Many of y'all know his story, where he would go into the corner bakery here in Austin, Texas, and he would sit for three sessions throughout the day. And so Allison Gaddy, Don Hobbs, I started a networking group 8 years ago, and Don was actually a partner in the group that I launched. He introduced me to Allison. I flew over to Fort Lauderdale. Many of y'all that were been here for a while was EXPCon in Fort Lauderdale, where there was about 600 people in the room. And I met Gene through that interaction there at Corner Bakery. And I made the decision. I came over simply because I wanted to scale and grow. And it puts me here today in a room full of folks all over the map. And it's just so fun to be a part of a culture of winners, just big thinkers. And so events work. Events, obviously, I saw the big picture of EXP. That I wanted to see the people because I'm a connector. I'm a relationship person. And so I said, hey, it makes great sense on paper. I want to go see who these people are about. And so when I went over and I met Glenn Sanford, and I got to shake hands with Jason Gessing and all the guys that started EXP, I called my wife and I said, honey, we're making a move. And I didn't move around a lot. I had a very successful business here in Austin. Our average sales price in Austin for me is about $900,000. I focus on golf course communities. That's been my niche for years. As Peggy mentioned, I started working my business working open houses. And so if you're listening today, if you've got people within your organization that is just getting into the business or needs a little bit of a refresher, that is the best way. And here's what it is. It's consistent. It's every week, not missing 1 week. And so what I did is I did a one open house a week. Every week I did 63 open houses my first year. And then the next year I did 56 open houses, and it paid me richly. I didn't work weekend open houses. I worked midweek open houses to have my weekends open. And what I found is that most agents work them from 2 to 4 on Saturday. I worked them on Tuesday afternoon from 4 to 7 in an urban part of Austin where I had a big traffic flow from coming home from the workday. And I worked a very specific zip code. So people saw my signs every single week. And so they came in just to say hi. And I would have sometimes 30, 40 people come through on a Thursday afternoon, but I made them experiences and I can convert. And so when I meet people, I know how to ask great questions. We're going to talk about that today, asking great questions. And as a result, 90% of my business that year and the second year came from those that I met in open houses. So every single week, and I just treated it like a 9 to 5 job, Peggy. I mean, I prepared, I located, I hosted, I followed up, I repeat that every single week. And we're in the people business, we're in the relationship business, and we want to go where the masses are going. So what I found from that is that my wife and I are married 10 years before we had our first child, and our second was due in 2017. And so in 2016, I launched a networking group in my downtown office in Austin, Texas. And I knew the power. I grew up in the church. I grew up in building relationships in small group communities, small group growth. And so I knew the power of word of mouth. And I thought, I've got a pretty big network. I'm going to start building relationships with people and start to develop a network of people that could pass business to one another.
Sure.
So I had a downtown office in Austin, and that was the start of Greater Value Network. And this was 8 years ago. And I built that group to 50 people within 30 days. And we had a philanthropic arm which we work with youth and children in foster care, which was a big draw for a lot of people. And to this day, I've got a massive network, and about 70% of my business comes from warm referrals from the relationships that I've built within this group. I don't chase leads anymore. It's all referrals, and you guys know the difference, leads versus referrals. And so when I met Chris, three and a half, almost 4 years ago, with the way our history and with what we've built here in Austin, we birthed ROI from the conversation, actually from a podcast that we launched in 2021. We did something called ROI Expert Advisors, and after that podcast, Chris got on the phone with me and said, "Hey, we should do this. Let's package it." We built ROI out of the success that we built here in Austin. And so Chris and myself launched ROI, and Chris is on the personal and professional development piece of ROI, which is a massive draw for all of our group leaders and all of our partners. And I wanted him to come on real quick and just know this. When we were playing golf that day, I didn't know who I was playing with. I was like, who is it? It's just another guy named Chris. And I found out Chris is a contributor to Success Magazine. He's written 24 books. One is being scripted right now for a movie. He's been all over the world, 2,500 speeches over his 30-year career. His book that he wrote with Jim Rohn before he passed, called 12 Pillars. That's a book that we hand out in our box of WUW for every partner that joins ROI. And so he's Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy, all these big names. He's spoken on stages with all of these giants in the personal and professional development world. And so it's a joy to work alongside him. We're truly partnering together, building something extraordinary. So groups are launching all over the country. And a lot of it is a result of Chris's influence. And so, Chris, why don't you come on real quick and share a little bit about with the folks. And Peggy, thanks again. This is a great.
Oh,
great
are you kidding? This is an honor. I'm
Great.
like sitting here so freaking exciting.
Yeah. Chris, come on,
Sure.
brother.
Yeah, thanks. For those of you who are kind of going, okay, so what exactly is ROI Expert Advisors? There's actually a really simple way to conceive of it. It's B&I for people in the real estate and home care business. There's 35 professions that we target. All of them have to do with working on or in a home. So here's what ROI, we know it stands for return on investment, but ROI also talks about real estate professionals. So that's real estate agents, surveyors, title, mortgage, whatever. O stands for outside the home, landscapers, gutters, roofers, cement contractors, etc. I'm guessing we're all smart here. That means inside the home, interior decorators, plumbers, electricians, painters, those kinds of things. So what we've done is taken the concept of the weekly networking meeting and we've put it specifically into a category for those who work on or in a home. And so it's been a really brilliant idea, and seeing some people that are just having some really extraordinary success with it. So I want to talk to you a little bit for my time to just tell you how I ended up being one of the top experts in the area or the idea of influence in the world. My book, The Art of Influence, has been translated into 13 languages, but life didn't start out that way. My dad died when I was 4 years old. He made $90,000 in his last year that he was alive, 1969. 1969, he made $90,000. We were living in a home in the Sandpoint Country Club that recently sold for $3.8 million, but he didn't have any insurance. So my mom, who hadn't worked outside the home in about 10 years, she had to sell the house because she couldn't afford the outrageous mortgage payment of $400 a month. And she got into real estate and flipping houses. She was flipping houses before it was big on HGTV. But my mother had some significant mental problems, borderline personality disorder, and some of those things. She got dealt a really bad, hard hand, and that began a downward spiral for our family. I lived in 28 homes. I went to 11 different schools. I started drugs in the 5th or 6th grade. I made most of my money growing up betting the horses at Long Acres Horse Track. I was shipped off to live with relatives twice, once in 4th grade, once in the 9th grade. I had 47 written referrals to the principal's office my sophomore year of high school. And I graduated 149th out of 172 kids in my class. The thing that I love is Zig Ziglar, and I'll tell you a little bit about my interactions with Zig Ziglar in a minute. But Zig Ziglar always used to say, I was in the half of the class that made the top half possible. Well, I was in the 10th of the class that made the top 90% possible. And you jump forward about 30 years, and I was working with a guy named Jim Rohn. I spent the last 7 years of Jim Rohn's life working with him. In 2002, 2004, I was ghostwriting for a guy named John Maxwell, who I'm sure you all know. I wrote his nationally syndicated column for 2 years. I ended up going to work with Jim Rohn, wrote his last book called 12 Pillars, which has sold over 1 million copies. And then I was also asked to co-host a television show with Zig Ziglar. So I went from a pretty decent speaking business to a really, really, really great speaking business. I'm in the Motivational Speakers Hall of Fame. As Chris mentioned, I've given 2,500 speeches all over the world, 24 books, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Success Magazine, our very own Success Magazine, last year named me one of the top 10 sales speakers in the world. Now, I will quote Tony Robbins. I do not tell this to you to impress you, but to impress upon you that anybody, and I believe anybody, no matter where you came from, can learn how to become an influential person. And influence is a core competency of those people who make money in sales. And I had been writing leadership books, and the president of Jim Rohn International came to me one day and he said, you should write a book on influence. And I said, why? And he goes, Chris, I don't know anybody who knows and has in their phone more rock stars, professional athletes, senators, congressmen, billionaires, all this kind of stuff. And to be honest with you, I had literally never thought about it. I was just living my life, and I felt like I was living this God-blessed life where I was just meeting people, relationship with them, and getting into business with them, and all of these kinds of things. And so I thought, okay. And so I took 6 months and I started thinking, what do I do? And then I started looking at all my influential friends and thinking, what is it that they do? How do they live their life? What's the core things about them? From 1988 until 2002, I was a pastor. And my first job was 3 years in northern New Jersey, where I was working at a smaller church, couple hundred. We grew it to about 800 in 3 years. But it was a smaller church size, but it was a who's who of American professional business people. My first business mentor was the CEO of Mars Candies. Another one of my mentors ran 17, he was the CEO of 17 insurance companies. This is not because I'm so great, but it's because I was able to be blessed to get into these relationships with people. And as I wrote the book, The Art of Influence, and I studied influence, I realized something really interesting about influence. Most people think that influence is based on what they do to other people, right? So if somebody says, I want to be a good influencer, tell me what I need to do. And people say, well, you need to learn how to handle objections. You need to learn to make a good speech, and you need to learn to make a good presentation, and you need to do this to other people. And that's true. You do need to learn how to handle objections. You do need to learn how to make good presentations, those kinds of things. But what I really learned was that our influence in the lives of other people is dependent upon them. They decide whether or not we have influence or not. We don't just go, I'm going to have influence with this person. Here's what you need to do. And then they do it. That's not the way it works. What happens is, and it's this process, and it's sort of a nebulous process, some of which is at a conscious level, some of which is at a subconscious level. But here's what we need to be thinking about if we want to have more influence. How do other people perceive me? Do they perceive me as a person who can help them, who can make them a better person, make them a better business person? How do they perceive me? Are they going to seek out my opinion for what they should do or how they should live? And I think that's really, really important for us to understand. Now, the base level understanding of influence is really simple. I'll give you a working definition for the remaining time that we have today. Influence is the ability to change another person's thoughts, beliefs, and actions. The ability to change another person's thoughts, beliefs, or actions. Now, think about this. How would you like to be able to have more influence over your teenagers? Johnny, your bedroom is dirty. I'd like you to go clean it. And Johnny says, Mother, I agree. I will be back in an hour. I'm going to go clean my. Wouldn't you love it to be able to change your teenagers' thoughts, beliefs, and actions? You know, when you're pitching a deal to potential clients to sell their house and you're making that sales presentation, wouldn't you like to be able to speak to them and they say, this is fantastic. We want you to do it. We want you to be the person. It's one of the really great things about ROI Expert Advisors actually is we teach you how to get people who show up and they already want you because of warm referrals and those kinds of things. But what I really realized was that, and I learned this from Zig Ziglar, and I talk about this in a lot of my speeches, people look at you on two different levels. They look at your skill set and they look at your character. You must have both. If you have a high skill set but no character, you're most likely a charlatan. And there's lots of people with a lot of skill set with no character, and they take advantage of you, but they don't have long-term influence. Isn't it? It's one thing to sell a house one time. It's another thing to sell that person a house and then sell the next house and then sell their friends' houses and sell their family's houses and all those kinds of things. Anybody can lie to somebody and get one sale, but character is what gets you sale after sale after sale after sale. Now, what happens if you just have character, but you have no skill set? You're a nice guy. You're a nice guy. Love to have you and your spouse over for dinner, maybe even do a vacation. Totally trust you to watch my kids. I'm not asking you to do much for me, though. I'm not asking you to sell my house because you can't sell a house because you don't have the skill set, right? Great guy, no skill set. But when you merge character and skill set, that's when you find influence. Now, here's the problem. In my seminars, and I do seminars for people, literally from my smallest seminar I ever did was 3 people. And the biggest seminar I ever did was 25,000 people. And I will ask people, how many of you have ever been to a skills-based training? Every hand goes up. They learned how to make money. They learned how to have a better marriage. They learned how to sell houses. They learned how to do accounting. They learned how to skill. And the problem is most people say, I want to be a better husband. Tell me what I need to do. I want to be a better real estate agent. Tell me what I need to do. I want to be a millionaire. Tell me what I need to do. But one of the things that Zig Ziglar taught me is that it's not do, have. The real secret to success is be, do, have. And that drove me to look at character and its role in influencing other people. The reality is, and I don't have the time to go into it, but I've done this with literally millions of people across the globe. I've done this whole audience participation thing where I draw them down. And what the audience realizes is every single time when I have them write down a list of things that influencers and great leaders do, they almost always talk about character. When I say write down the things that are important to you for a great leader, great influencer in your life, write them down. You'll get some skills. They got to be a good communicator. They got to be a vision caster. They need to be a good time manager. And then it sort of peters out. But then you kick them over to character, kindness, honesty, integrity, and it's just on and on and on and on and on, generosity. And so when I wrote the book, The Art of Influence, I wrote at it from a different angle. I wrote the book based on and came at it from the idea of character, because there's all sorts of skills-based things that people can read and take studies and all those kinds of things. What about character? What do people consider your character to be? And I'm going to give you 4 really quick here. The first one is integrity. First one is always the first one. The others you can put in whatever order you want. Integrity. If people do not believe that you have integrity, they will never do business with you, because the number one core relationship factor in leaders and followers between sellers and buyers is character. Do I trust you? Integrity breeds trust. Now, here's a really interesting thing. When you break down words, and I love words, my mom could do before she passed away, the Sunday morning New York Times crossword puzzle in 11 minutes in pen. And she taught me to love words. And so I love etymology, which is the roots of words. And integrity shares the same root word as an old math term that we all learned in junior high. You, of course, are already saying in your head, integrity, integer. That's what it is. We learned what an integer. I always say, okay, smarty pants, follow-up question. What is an integer? Don't worry, I've asked 1 million people that question. I've had less than 20 people say it's a whole number. Do you know that the actual literal root definition of integrity means wholeness? And I will extrapolate it a little bit more by saying that if you look at wholeness differently, it means undivided. It means you operate out of a single set of morals, ethics, and values, not a dual set of morals, ethics, and values. It means you tell the truth all the time. Because as soon as somebody catches you telling them something that isn't true, now they always have to ask the question, is this the true one or the untrue one? It means you tell the truth all the time. It means you don't tell the truth sometimes, not tell the truth other times. It means you don't treat people, one set of people this way, other people another set of this way. It means you don't pay your taxes on some of your income and then insert nervous laughter here. Don't report some of your other income, which some people are wont to do. When my girls were, when they were about 10 years old and they started babysitting, I made them file income taxes every year. And they're like, Dad, I'm going to get all my money back. I know, but I want you to report your income. I want to teach you to report your income. And so they would report it, even though there was no W-2s, there was no nothing. They did it as an independent contractor. Here's my money. I made $600 last year. And of course, they didn't have to file anything. But I wanted to teach them to have integrity, because integrity is the core foundation, whether or not people are going to trust you or not. So first thing we have to do is we have to ask ourselves, am I operating out of a single set of morals, ethics, and values? Is there any way that somebody could look at my life and say, well, you say this, but you do that? And you don't have influence if they can say that. For example, you parents, have you ever walked into a bedroom with 2 of your children screaming at each other, and you walk in and you say, no, you're in this household. And they look at you and they go, well, you're screaming at us. Why should we not scream if you scream at us? Isn't that the worst thing that parents ever hear from a kid? Why should I do it? You don't. They're calling out integrity, and they're saying, you don't influence me because you're not living it yourself. Always number one, integrity. The second one is optimism. People want to be around people who are optimistic. If someone calls you in for a sales call and you're making your sales pitch and they say, do you really think we could sell our house? And you, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull this off. I mean, you got a lot of problems with this house, and the market's down and interest rates are up, and you're just not a nice person. And I'm not been in the business very long, so I just don't know if we're ever going to be able to do it. Do you think they're going to hire you? No, they're never going to hire you. If you're a pessimist, people want to hire optimists. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't be a realist. you can still see a house that needs some work and say, you know what, I really do think that this house is going to, there's obviously some issues. You're probably aware of some issues. You know, we've got some painting we need to do and a couple things we need to fix, and we got to get the outside looking better, and, you know, maybe get that, there's a little sagging part on the roof. Let's get that fixed. But yeah, I definitely think if we put the work in, we can get this house sold, because we're going to work really hard at it. We're going to work together. That's optimism. It inspires people, and they say, I want to work with this person. The person who tells you something is going to be better is always going to win over something who tells you it's going to be worse. Politically, I have read studies where the candidate with the most positive stump speech, there was actually 2 linguistics professors who took stump speeches against people who were running against each other, put them into a computer, categorized some words as optimistic and some words as pessimistic, and they ran an analysis. They found out that 9 out of 10 times the person who had the most optimistic stump speech always won, because people don't want to vote for somebody who's going to take them to a worse place. They want to vote for somebody who's going to take them to a better place. So that's number 2, optimism. The number 1 way you demonstrate to other people whether you're an optimist or a pessimist is in the words that you use. Are you Debbie Downer when you're talking to people? Well, the weather sure is bad out today. Nobody cares. They know it's bad. They're in the room with you. They're looking out the window. They already know it's bad. They want to be inspired, right? So here's what I want you to do. For the next 2 weeks, listen to yourself and ask yourself, are you the type of person who's positive and optimistic? Do you inspire people? I'll close with this Zig Ziglar quote. Zig always used to say, you know, you can be the type of person, there's these types of people, they brighten a room when they walk in. You ever met somebody that just brightens a room when they walk in? But there's also people who brighten a room when they walk out. Are you the type of person that brightens a room when you walk in? Type of person that brightens a room when you walk out? Third one is service. People want to do business with people who serve them. When we serve other people, integrity breeds trust. Optimism breeds admiration. Service breeds loyalty. When you can make someone believe that you will consider their interests as more important than your own, they will do business with you, because they say, this person is out for my good. This person isn't just to take advantage of me. This person really cares about me and what I'm going to get out of this. Again, I quote Zig all the time because I love him to death. The greatest man I ever met was Zig Ziglar. Greatest privilege of my life. One of them was co-hosting his television show. One of the famous quotes of Zig's, and I share it in this point of my speech all the time, is you can have anything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want out of life. Are you the type of person who's helping other people get what they want out of life? And if you can do that, the world is your oyster, as they say. You can do whatever it is that you want to do. Are you truly serving other people? And then lastly is excellence. People listen to people who are excellent at what they do. Let me give you some examples. If you wanted to be rich, would you pull off the freeway, get to the end of the off-ramp, roll down your window to a guy holding a brown cardboard sign that says, "We'll work for food," and say, "Hey, got any stock picks? Got any financial advice for me? Hey, what are you looking at? How's the market's going to do today?" No, because he's obviously not excellent at money. You're going to talk to your rich uncle who owns 14 apartment complexes, or you're going to talk to your successful business friend, or your next door neighbor who is, growing a great business. You're going to talk to people who are good at it. If you want to lose weight, are you going to talk to the person who's 50 pounds overweight and go, "Hey, what do you eat every day?" Well, you might do that and then just not eat that, right? But you don't go to the person who's fat and overweight. You go to the person who's fit and you say, "Tell me, I need to lose some weight. Tell me, what do you do?" We invite them to influence, and we invite them to influence because they are excellent at what we want to learn how to do, right? Lastly, marriage. Let's say that you're struggling in your marriage. Every marriage goes through ups and downs and struggles and times where that person you say, "I love to death." Sometimes you go, "He annoys the hell out of me," or "She just bothers me to no end." Sometimes everybody goes through it, right? But you have some marriages and some marriages that don't. If you're struggling with your marriage, you're going to go to that couple that bickers all the time, that's on their third marriage, and say, "Hey, tell me, what's the secret?" No, you're going to go to that couple that's been married for 40 years, and you're going to say, "We love each other to death. We want to make it. We're struggling. Help us." Influence is being invited into someone's life to help them make their life better. And I will tell you that Oftentimes people in professions, they look at their profession for simply what they do and not what they are accomplishing. And I'll end with this. I always try to encourage people to look at what they do, but not just look at what they do, but what they're actually helping others do. Somebody could say, I'm just a waitress. I'm just a waitress. No, you're not. You're the woman or the man who is serving a couple because they left their kids with a sitter and they're trying to rekindle their romance. And you're taking that meal off of their plate so that they don't have to cook it and they can focus on each other. You're helping business people sit across from another, not worry about where the food's coming from, but to do business deals. That's what a waitress really does. What does a realtor do? Well, we sell houses. No, you don't. You help people find homes, because inside those homes, children are going to learn how to love. Children are going to learn how to forgive. Children are going to learn how to cooperate. Husbands and wives are going to learn how to love one another. They're going to learn how to pass their values along to their children. You're not just selling houses. You're helping people find homes. And good homes make for good societies, and they make for good world and a good country and good people. And it helps our societies perpetuate goodness. That's what a realtor does. And I want you to have as much influence as you possibly can. If I can leave you with one thing, is just ask yourself, how do other people perceive me? Do I have integrity? Am I optimistic and happy? Do I serve other people? And do I excel at what I do? And when you do those things and you begin to implement those things, you're going to see it becoming a lot easier to have influence and to sell those homes that you're selling to people. So with that, that's my 20 minutes or so. And I just wanted to kind of encourage you to think through some of those things. This is a little bit of a taste of what you get every single week. In fact, right before I jumped on this, I recorded our video for next week. One of the things that we do differently than BNI, and I'll turn it back over to you, Chris Stegg. One of the things that we do differently than BNI is we actually have a personal development aspect in the meeting every single week. We give them the video the Friday before, and then everybody watches it. They show up and they have discussion about what it is that they want to do. So that's my time. I think I'm supposed to
Wow.
back over to Chris, but maybe I'm kicking it back over to you, Peggy. But anyway,
Well,
with
Chris,
that, that's my time.
I am totally blown away that you're on Wake Up Wednesday. This is like such an honor, and I can see the faces, and everyone is just like super charged up right now. Do you have time? I want to respect your time. Do you have time for a couple of questions?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Sarah, you had your hand up. Was that just a thumbs up, or were you just saying hi? Whoop, audio.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was clapping, I was thumbs up. I mean, everything he was saying is, as a 14-year veteran that is, a top producer, everything you said, Chris, was spot on. And that's what I teach new agents that come across my path. So I love to hear it. And you presented it so fluently and inspiring. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Amazing. Chris, do you have a public podcast that we can watch? Or do we
I
have
don't.
to You don't?
I don't.
Okay.
I've done podcasts, but I've mainly done podcasts in like the speaker world. I did one called Fortunes from Speaking and some of those, but I don't do a regular podcast now.
Okay. So will you come back on and like it by the end of the year and check on us? And
Every time you ask me, I'll be here.
well, so this is my new co-host, you guys. See, I'm bold. You don't know me, but you tell me, I'll ask for something.
Okay.
Anybody else got some questions here? Jump in because I can't see everyone. Okay, Brad. Good morning from Canada.
Morning, everybody. Chris, thanks so much. And Chris, thanks so much. So I'm kind of do a little bit of fanboy here. About 20 years ago, dating myself a little bit, but I got a set of CDs and some DVDs. Anyway, it was a Jim Rohn event.
Oh, yeah.
Jim Rohn weekend leadership event. And I got
years ago
this
this year. It was 2000. It was 2004, 20 years ago.
2004, yeah.
July 31st through August 2nd.
Yeah. So I didn't attend the event. I think it was in Anaheim, but I got
Anaheim,
this book.
yeah.
I got a bunch of books.
That is the original self-published book. We sold 120,000 copies of that book.
Yep.
And then we sold it to Random House, and that book came out. It debuted at #2 on the Wall Street Journal and #7 at the New York Times. Look at that. There you go.
Wow.
That is old school right there. That book, that blue covered hardbound, that is old school.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty awesome. So I was like, man, Chris Widener's going to be on Wednesday Wake Up. What? Like, what?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's
You're
what
like,
I was
he's like, I always wondered what happened to Widener.
what's that guy up to? Yeah, pretty awesome. So everybody, like, get a copy of this book. It's absolutely fantastic. Angel Inside. Anyway, just wanted to plug your book.
I
Chris.
thank
Yeah,
you.
you bet. So
that is my favorite book I ever wrote.
Yeah, it's awesome. I didn't get a chance to read it again last night, but I'm going to read it today. So
yeah.
Anyway, thanks again for contributing here. Really,
I appreciate that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
It's great. Anybody else? And Brad, we love that your daughter's there. You're starting her off at a young age listening to us. That's so cool.
Boss girl.
Who else has got something? Dee Dee, you're like jumping up and down over on the East Coast there with me. You put something back.
I just want to say thank you. This was very inspiring. I'm new and well, I'm making my way and I'm learning from Peggy and all the wonderful speakers. But Chris, this was awesome. The breakdown, the IOSE is what I'm going to call it. Integrity, optimism, service, and excellence. I think that's a beautiful thing to keep in mind. Maybe even put it right in front of right here, add it right here to
I've never heard anybody call it OISE, and now I'm thinking, okay, I need to add something else before it that starts with a P so I can say poise. Now I got to come up with something. Now you've just thrown my entire career up into
I love it.
Up into
How
the
about
air.
Let's think of some keywords. The perfection.
Patience.
Persistence. Persistence. Patience.
Let's
You
add
got
persistence. Patience.
Wow.
Maybe have it printed in a T-shirt. The whole letters coming down, and
There
I
you
love
go.
that. I have to put it up here with my inspirational.
My brain
post.
just went.
Okay, you blew mine, and I did it in return. So
There you
thank you
go.
so much. It's nice to blow minds. Thank you so much for your time today. This is so valuable and so amazing to hear and learn. Thank you so much,
Sure
Chris
thing.
and
Yes,
Chris.
Chris, I really, really appreciate everything you've said. And it's, I believe and live everything you say and have for 48 years, which is why people do business with me. And
Yep.
you don't have a chance to give back a lie or a misstatement. You always can say, I don't know, but let me get back to you. And, I've practiced that my entire career, and I appreciate you. You have eloquently put it into practice.
Thank you.
That's great. This is all really good. Sarah, you had a question for Dee Dee, real quick. You said you put something in the chat there.
Yes, she wanted the words I for integrity, O for optimism, S for service, E for excellence. And Chris wanted to add the P before integrity to make the word poise. So we were thinking about persistence, patience, maybe perfection, but not really.
But isn't it interesting that the only words, and this goes to my point, the only words we've mentioned that start with a P are all character based.
Yes.
Like nobody said presentations. We need to make presentations. We all went directly to character, because what I found is that I actually do this whole thing with people where I make them write down the top 10 things. They get into groups of 2 or 3. They write down 10 things that words that would describe a great leader. And again, I've done this with 1 million people all over the world. At the end, I make them do how many of them were character, how many of them were skills. And then I say, I want you to raise your hand and look around the room and hold your hands up. How many of you had more character traits than skills? Every time I've ever done this for 20 years, people hold their hands up, they look around the room, and 90% of the room had more character traits than skill sets. And I say, okay, it begs the question, if what you are looking for in leaders is character, then wouldn't it also be true that what other people are looking for in you would be character as well? And so it's a really great analogy. Especially, I think the biggest group I ever did it with was Garland, Texas, and we had 7,000 people at the Garland Event Center, and here's 6,500 of them with their hands raised saying yes, and character matters. Character is what I'm looking for.
Wow, this is amazing. So I'm just blown away. I'm so glad this is recorded. I can't wait to post it and to watch it again. I want to be mindful of your time. So talk to us about this business ROI. So who came up with
Chris
it? How
Stegg
did
is
you?
going to do that.
Well, I will tell you, this is the joy that we get every single day. I mean, this is what a little piece of what Chris mentioned to you guys was about a 5 to 7 minute video is shared every single week prior to the meetup. And so what we found with our group here in Austin is that I was doing it all. I was content creating, I was attracting talent, I was taking care of the dues, I was inviting others, I was following up. It was a lot, but I was trying to sell real estate too on the side. And so what we have done is we've taken care of all the support, the training, the branding, all the back office work. We've got a community, it's called Kajabi Community, of all of our groups all across the country are gathered in one place. And so we have found that to be super effective. And our group leaders are more just facilitators. They're not necessarily leaders, they're just facilitators, but they find other leaders in the group to help facilitate. So Chris and I've packaged a system, if you will, for those. And so the one of the things that we have found to be, Peggy, the draw is that we cut out the noise. BNIs are great. We love BNI. We're so thankful for BNIs and all those groups that have those structured, groups that have formed over the years. And we're thankful for them. And they bring in people that if you have a business card and you've got the dollars and that spot is open, you're in. And so what we have found is we've, as Chris mentioned, about 35 professions. Our groups that are established, that are passing tons of referrals, they average around 25 people max. I mean, 30 people. These are 1 hour in-person meetups every single week, and so 30 people in an hour, that's a lot. So 18 to 25 is our average group size. But these are people that are in conversation that we want to be in conversation with. And so, like my flooring representative, I've got a flooring person that's on 15 appointments a day. Well, I can't get all 15, but because we've built this relationship, they know what a prospect looks like for me. They know when to say, how to say it. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, are you just refreshing the floors, or are you doing new floors to eventually list your home, for the market? And so I've got someone that I would love to make the introduction. And it's in a genuine way that we say this: word of mouth is king. It cannot be advertised against. I mean, I closed a deal last month from my residential cleaning company. She cleans houses. She's been doing this for years. She's got a whole team of people, and she's been cleaning this house in Steiner Ranch here in Austin for years. She knows this couple. I mean, knows the ins and outs of this couple. And she made the introduction, and I got a phone call a week later saying, "Hey, we've heard the best thing from Rosalind. She told us, like, you're the person. We got to sell our house. We got to move on. Can you come over and list our house?" It was that conversation. And so what this does is it brings about referrals. It brings about a greater peace. And one of the things that I will tell you guys is I'm a dad to 2 girls. I came over to EXP because I wanted to scale and grow and not chase deals, chase business. I wanted to attract more. And so I moved from open houses to doing these weekly meetups to attract more business than chase business. And so I've got more time as a dad because my dad gave me and my 2 brothers his time. As busy as he was, that's the greatest gift that I can give my girls is my time with them. And so I didn't want to be the agent that I'm always chasing people down. And so this is a long-term strategy. It's not a short-term anything. It's a long-term strategy. We have several Peggy group leaders. We've got one group out of Puyallup, Washington. They've passed over 1,000 referrals amongst their group of 30. And just in the month of April, they passed 253 referrals. And they're killing it.
That's amazing.
They're killing it. And so it's a group, it's a dream team network of trusted advisors. that they're actually going to work for you. It's exclusivity. And so there's only one partner, one category per profession. And so that flooring rep that I mentioned, they're out looking for me. Doesn't mean that a lender can only do business with the agent and the group. Just means that for the purpose of the group, if anything's birthed out of that group, it goes to that person. And so this is a branch, this is a healthy branch to an existing real estate business. It's not an add-on. It's just a very well productive, effective way to achieve more business.
You know, what I love about this, Chris, too, is whenever you're going to do something, I mean, you and I spoke, I think I was in one of the original BNI groups back in the 80s in Connecticut. And right now, again, it goes back to being able to talk to people. So how cool is this? If you are not sure where to go, just start to call people in your your circle of, hey, I learned about this. Is this something? Do you belong to any other networking groups? Find out who are the best, in some states, real estate attorneys or escrow agents or title or whatever those people are. Start building your dream team now. Because if you don't have a relationship with someone, you can't just go and pick up the phone and say, oh, I'm thinking about starting this networking group and I think you should be a part of it. They're going to look at you like, what did you say? You have to earn it. You have to give back before somebody's going to give you. You've got to have that trust. So even these little nuggets here, look more beyond of what the two Chris's are talking about. Look at the conversations that you can start today to build those relationships. We always have something to talk about. And it frustrates the heck out of me when people just sit there and go, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know who to call. Just pick up the phone. When I first got into real estate, everyone knows how old I am. I got my license. It's going to be 40 years in July. I got my license in 1984 in Connecticut. They threw the book at us, meaning the yellow pages or the white pages. And they all sat us down and they said, here, you want to sell real estate? Start making phone calls. We did that. We didn't know it was really cold calling. We didn't have all those labels back there. But the people who got the appointments were the people who were talking to them, asking, what do you need help with? How can I help you? Because if you just call someone and say, hey, I want this, this, and this from you, you're not going to get it. So it goes back to building relationships, building that trust, letting people know how much you care about them. And before I forget, Chris, back in 87, I used to do open houses on Thursday nights. I'd run an ad in the local paper, and my headline in the real estate section was, tired of that boring ride, same old ride home? Try a new route and you'll find a new home. And that's how I started booking my open houses back in the 80s, because our local paper, the Rare Reminder and the Penny Saver, came out on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and people were looking at real estate because that was our only way to communicate back there. So when I also think about what everyone's contributing on this, it's going back to basics. And you got to believe in yourself. And Chris W., you brought up one of my favorite all-time sayings. And yes, I learned it at KW, believing that they made up everything, but be, do, have. Yeah. Would you, if you're in California, don't you dare take my idea, but that's going to be the new marker, the license plate on my car. My new car that I just got is be, do, have. So Chris, would you expand upon that? Because not everybody knows what that is, or how to, they misinterpret it sometimes.
Yeah. So everybody wants to have something. They want to have money. They want to have a good marriage. They want to have, whatever. So the natural question is, what do I need to do to have that? But what Zig really always came across with was this idea that who you are drives what you do. People can change what they do, but they'll always go back to who they are or who they believe they are. And I'll give you a couple of examples. How many people that were 50 pounds overweight and they lost the weight and then they gained 75 pounds back? because who they believe who they are, they say, I'm a fat person. Maybe they've seen themselves in a fat body for 50 years. Well, if you see a fat body every single day for 50 years, you begin to believe that's who you are, right? And so you need to change who you believe that you are. And I believe that you do that incrementally so that you don't go back to what you did. I'll give you another example. Have we ever heard of somebody who won a couple $1 million in a lotto? 3 years later, they're broke. Why?
Right.
Because their subconscious is, whoa, I'm a poor person. We've got money in the bank. We can't have money in the bank if we're a poor person. Let's get rid of the money. And it's all at a subconscious level. So here's the best way to look at how who you are drives what you do, which produces the results that you want. Your belief about who you are and who your actual character is like a thermostat. It's always going to set you at that level. So you can set a thermostat at 70. Let's say you put a thermostat at 70. Now, if you live in Phoenix in June, and we used to live in Phoenix in June, we moved from Scottsdale. We're going back there in a couple weeks for our anniversary. And I'm like, really? We're going to the surface of the sun for our anniversary? But we are. And but if you set it at 70 and you're in Scottsdale and it's June and you open your door, heat's going to come in. And that thermostat's going to go, whoa, it's 75 now. We need to turn on the air conditioning. And it brings it down to 70. Now, if you're in Minnesota, where I went to college, by the way, and you have it set at 70, I did 2 internships in college. I did a summer in Phoenix and a winter in Fargo, North Dakota. The difference between the extreme differences between my 2 internships, I kid you not, 200 degrees. I went from 80 below to 120 were the extremes in my two things, right? But if you're in Minnesota or Fargo, North Dakota, right across the border, and you open your door and it's set to 70 and it's December, cool air is going to come in. The thermostat's going to go, whoa, now it's 65. We got to turn on the heat, not the air conditioning. We turn on the heat this time. That's what our core belief system about who we are. This is why it's not just okay to try to do good things. We need to be good people. And this is where it really comes down to, and I do this a lot in my speeches, I hold up my hands and this is a mirror. You need to look in the mirror and just say, who am I? What is my identity? Who do I believe myself to be? I'll tell you one story and then I'll kick it back over to you. I have a good friend named Tom Flick. Tom was a Rose Bowl quarterback in University of Washington. He played, I think, 12 years in the NFL. He barely ever played. He was a backup quarterback in the NFL. And I always used to tell him that's the greatest job ever, backup quarterback in the NFL. You know, you still get all the admiration, all the money, never get hit, right? Well, in his rookie year, they were playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. And somehow the starting quarterback got hurt and in walks Tom Flick. First time he's ever taken a snap in an NFL game. And he looks across the line and there's a guy named Jack Lambert. Jack Lambert is one of the meanest, best linebackers in NFL history. And he was missing his 2 front teeth, which made him look even worse and more mean. Jack Lambert literally walked across the line. He stepped in between the center and the guard and put his helmet just like this up to Tom. And he says, who are you? And he walked back across the line. And they played the whole rest of the game. And Tom said, when we got on the jet to go back home that night, all I could think of was that question that Jack Lambert asked me, who are you? And he said, I started asking myself, am I a Christian? Am I a dad? Am I a husband? Am I a football player? Who am I? And I think that is such he said, who would have ever thought that Jack Lambert would change my life with one simple question? Who are you? And that's what I really want to challenge us to do is just ask ourselves the question, who am I? Who do I believe that I am at my core? And then that is what determines what you do. Just like the thermostat says, we're going to be 70. Sometimes it turns on the air. Sometimes it turns on the heat. But the whole goal is to bring it into integrity with who you are. And that's why it will propel what you do. If you think you're poor and you try to start saving money, it's never going to work. If you think you're fat, you try to lose weight, it's never going to work. You have to be, do, have.
That's amazing. I've heard that explained many, many times, and that just simplified it right there. It's almost 10 o'clock. Well, my time, because I mean, not on the East Coast. So Chris S., thank you. What do you want to say to the group?
I'm going to drop a link here. And what I would encourage you guys to do is, if you want to work with Chris and I and come alongside us, this is the link to, you can book a call with me and Chris. We can join you. We just had an opportunity to visit with George, the VP of Growth for Success Lending, and several of their lenders are launching groups all over the country. And so we're looking for partnerships. We're looking for, let's do this thing together. This is a gift that we have packaged that we want to give to you. This will bless you richly. It's a simpler way to achieve new business. You know, Nick Saban, love the guy, but the reason why he was so good is that he taught his players not to play from the snap to the whistle, but from the whistle to the snap. And it's what you do. It's there's lead generation, which most people do. There's referral generation that very little people do. They don't know how to develop those relationships with others that are in conversations with those that they want to be in conversations with. And so we have found a better, simpler way, and we've packaged it in a way. And so if you want to go to that link, you can watch the little 2-minute video there. You can book a call with me. Chris and I are very accessible. I'm still actually a producing agent, but this is about 80% of my time every single week as we're helping others launch groups all over the country. So love a chance to connect with each of you. And I see a lot of familiar faces, but this has been a great time today. And Peggy, I'm thrilled to.
I just feel honored and blessed that you guys gave us an hour of your time. I think everyone, I've been getting text messages and other outside comments, and everyone is loving it. And we are going to have you guys back. Chris W., thank you, thank you, thank you. And everyone that's on the call today, just pick up the phone. You are influencers. You've got something to say. You've got something to help people with. Now is the time to do it. If you are not psyched right this minute, if you aren't as pumped up as I am, well, I think you need to rewatch this or book a call with these two, because we got it going on here on Wake Up Wednesday. Don, you want to just jump on real quick? Thank you for being on the call today. I know these are friends of yours. You know these people. Jim Rome is one of your mentors. So what do you want to say, Don, real quick?
Peggy, I'll just say this. First of all, I was dressing and doing things you wouldn't have all wanted to see, but I wanted to make sure that Chris knew I was here and listening. Chris Widener and I, well, all three of us were just on a platform together here recently. Chris does an amazing job. I loved his content. I took so many freaking notes. I feel like I should know everything that Chris says, but
well, I was going to say, Don, next time we're together, if I die on the stage, just jump up and finish it, because I think this is the 6th or 7th time you've heard it. So, you know,
hey, don't you give my job away.
Oh, that's right.
Widener.
Denise is supposed to. I always tell Denise, if I die, just get up on stage and finish it for me.
That's awesome. Well, anyway, these two guys have hearts of gold, wisdom, greatness. I mean, I'm just so excited that they were here. We were excited, of course, to see that they were on this. And Denise, good to see you. I did, by the way, Chris, want to tell you that I think I went to school with Debbie Downer. I'm pretty sure I did. Actually, bummer of a name, huh? Anyway, Peggy, you're amazing. This is amazing. So glad to see everybody here and picking up on these two gentlemen and their wisdom. Chris, great job, guys.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks, everybody. Well, I will see you next week. And I think we're just going to have an open conversation next week, because I don't have a guest speaker. And I think it would be great to keep talking on some of these talking points here.
Peggy, do I just send you my headshot for the new co-host bio?
Yes,
or,
absolutely.
By the way, just get into the ROI thing, guys, is working. We've got people in our group. We've got people in other groups that are working it. It's working. So get in there. It's a great way of generating your leads and building your business in a different way.
Our number one agent in 2022, prior to ROI, sold 12 homes. In 2023, his first year in ROI, he sold 17 homes just out of his ROI group. And I think he sold another 8 that came sort of the traditional way. So we went from 12 homes to 25 homes because his art, and he's in Jake Kinder's group, and he's a great guy. And this is in Chagrin Falls, Ohio. So if he can do it in Chagrin Falls, Ohio, anybody can do it anywhere.
Sarah, that's even further away than Paducah. All right, guys, I could stay here forever. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
everybody.
Take care. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Bye. Love y'all.